Welcome to my mBraining Live series with Amy Mercer and Laura Masters.
I'm Beth Gray. I'm an mBraining coach and have been since early 2018. And I really focus on the self-awareness of our inner life, that well-being is an inside job. We start with emotional intelligence. We start with knowing our own purpose and our values and basically living from the inside out. We want to change a relationship, for example, that starts with us, not with the other person. We're never going to get that other person to change, but we can change how we approach everything, how we behave, how we think, how we speak, how we feel. And so I'm excited to talk to the two of you today. I know you have Abundance Enterprises, which is where you're running your training on mBraining and also coaching directly. And I'm going to invite both of you to introduce yourselves. I know you're mBIT master coaches and trainers, but give us a bit more on each of your backgrounds. I'm going to start with you, Laura.
Okay, hi. Well, my name is Laura Masters, and I did my first mBIT training in Vancouver with Reb and Mark. And then I did the master coach with Suzanne and Wilbert and the train the trainers with them as well in Spain. And that was awesome. And then my partner, Amy, and we did our first mBraining training in the fall of 19. And then we did a gorgeous training in Ashland in the beginning, just end of February, beginning of March in 2020. And then of course, COVID hit, and because they're all in person, that was the last one we did until just this past June. And we did a great training in Missouri and met some wonderful ladies there who have invited us back again to train again.
Awesome.
And we're so excited to train again. So
yeah. Can people still sign up for this training?
Yeah, there's still room. There's still room. And it's going to be a very unique training. One of the gals that trained with us in June is becoming our incredible business coach, and she is hosting one in her beautiful lake house. So this is a very unique experience where you have a chance, if you wish to be with all of us in a lake house and spend 4 days together and just really get a community from the get-go. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome. And Amy.
Yeah, so Laura and I have for a long time been worked together, kind of parallelly, but now that we have this business together, we get to move into what really gives us joy, which is coaching and teaching about, how to live a beautiful life. So, it stems from, I've been a coach forever. Laura's been an educator forever, and coming together with both of our strengths is super fun for us. Yeah. And we always, in everything we have done, have focused on the neuroscience, and the really grounding principles of, what really, when your wheels are on the ground, what really works. Yeah. So, so when we found mBIT, we were so thrilled. And in this last training that we did, I think we both just really, really felt the feeling of, just feeling it down to our bones, and what we were accomplishing, what we were, making a difference for people and in the world. And it was an extraordinary and very, very exciting experience for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if we talk about mBraining and how it transforms our lives, let's start with the personal before we move out into the coaching. What do you do differently because you've learned mBraining? How I mean, what has it changed for you?
Now, Amy, do you want to start this time?
Well, I mean, it's interesting for me that, so much, and just a small caveat, which is that I've worked with my father as a coach since I was about 21, and he was intuitively having people work kind of on a neurosomatic level, on working with unresolved issues and moving into, a more active spiritual space for people just intuitively. And he was doing it from a really intellectual perspective because he worked with dentists and stuff. So it's really fun for me to come from this place where I knew I was doing something that made a difference. But bringing mBIT in is so, so powerful to that for me, because it actually shows how much he was intuitively already doing. But what's really cool about it to me is when you put the neuroscience on, you can fine tune it. And also understanding it does make a difference, because I find that as I, I'm aware of what's actually physically going on in my body when I'm working these processes, I can deepen it, or I can actually tweak it a little bit to actually match the neurochemical kind of processes that are happening in my body because of it. So I just find it incredibly powerful. And the other thing that for me is really so amazing about mBIT is because when we're working really, really, the first time I did mBIT and the very first time I coached mBIT, I said, this is the first time I've ever coached where I've really, really felt like a tour guide for somebody's own emotional experience.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And so that was transformational. And then when we did this training in May, it even deepened deeper than that, where I actually said one of my father's original goals was, in teaching what he taught, was that he wanted people to know that they owned the process, the whatever they were doing was them doing it. Nobody else was doing it, that they were in the power, they were in the control, and they had that agency to do everything. But I don't know that he knew how to teach people that. And so one of the things that really hit me and felt very fulfilling to me, almost like making one of my father passed a couple of years ago, like during COVID. And it was really funny, because I felt like I was kind of making one of his wishes come true, because I thought teaching mBIT is the best way to teach people of their own agency in this process.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. How about for you, Laura?
Yeah, all of that. And interestingly, that's how Amy and I met, was that I joined the beautiful company that her father had, and had been coaching with her father for 2 or 3 years, because she had been off sailing. And then, so I was being coached by this guy, and it like changed everything in my life, like absolutely everything. And I can say that I can't imagine my life before and after her father, Rick Mercer. And then, 3 years later, when Amy and I met, it was like this instant attraction. And I don't know who we were in our other lives or whatever, but I mean, this was just a wonderful friendship from the get-go. And we've, had a dream of working together for a long time. And when I decided that I wanted to go into coaching, I just started, of course, researching the neuroscience, because that's what's made my teaching and education therapy practice so incredibly successful, was really understanding all of the underpinnings and really being able to communicate that and helping people know why they're doing what they're doing and it was working.
Yeah.
And so this mBraining just kept coming across the top, and I just kept going, oh, mBraining, that just doesn't sound like much or whatever. And so about the third or fourth time I finally started researching it, and then I ended up talking to Reb, and they were doing a training a couple of months later in Vancouver. And I just called Amy and I said, I think I've found what we're going to do. Let's go. And she said, okay. And we did. And then we both left that training, I think, changed on many, many levels. I mean, through the training, we kept going, how did your dad know this? Like, how did
exactly?
It was amazing. And I mean, I can't say enough about that. And then, we left there and we started changing, I think both of us, because we're master teachers and because we're in special education, we're like, if this is what you want to be able to do, what's underneath that? What do you need to do underneath that, right? Like, what's underneath that? And so, we just got into what would the daily habits look like? Like, you have to do the daily.
That's exactly it. And that's something that is, for me, has been coming up. And the question also for me, what is personality? In psychology, they kind of define personality as that unique pattern of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that make you unique, and I sat there, I was like, well, wait a minute, but patterns of behavior or of thought or even of feelings are how we respond to our environment, how we respond to life. So I can change my personality if I go deep into what are my patterns and my habits and my behaviors, and what are my patterns of thinking. And if I choose to make any tweak or change, I could change how I'm showing up in the world. And we see this radically. For example, if somebody suffers a crisis or a loss, and you go, oh my gosh, they're so changed after that. But the same way, if somebody suddenly finds happiness, you notice the sudden change in them, and you can see it. But we all have that ability within ourselves to make those changes. And I don't think we understand the power, much like Amy said, of, we are the master of that change. We do have the agency to choose. How am I going to respond and change in the world? And that feeling of, oh, this person triggers me, and I automatically respond this way, and there's nothing I can do about that. Well, the moment you identify it, you can change it.
Yeah, you have that moment, like Viktor Frankl, in that space between the moment and action, we have all the choice in the world. And I feel like that's one of the reasons, one of my favorite things that Grant always says is we're human becomings.
Yes.
That there's nothing static about it, that we can always be changing and growing and examining, what's going on and why we're doing it. And then, really choose, when you understand how to really process everything that you're doing on a feeling level in your head and your heart and your gut. And you spend the time really, creating the pathways between them, just like we do when we're learning things.
Yeah.
You can access all of that and bring so much more of our, internal wisdoms and our intuitions, and so much more understanding to every moment of the day.
Absolutely.
And so I think creating beautiful habits around that. In fact, one of the things that we're including with our training in September for the first time is a 4-month, let's get you going into really a new way of being in the world. And so you learn so much in that 4 days that you walk when you almost don't know where to start. And so we're going to have this beautiful program to really sweep people along and get them to a place where they can begin, as Amy said, find that agency and be able to really affect the change themselves and own the process, and really then be able to express their true selves and create beautiful lives.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I find just continually astonishing is the more I listen, the more I actually listen in to the different intelligences, in the gut and in the heart, especially because we're pretty familiar with the head brain, what it has to say.
Yeah.
Although it is nice to actually ask it alternate questions, not just how do I get back into my old story questions.
Yeah.
But for me, with my heart and my gut intelligences, when I am really on a daily basis listening,
Yes.
how much more refined the messages get over time. It seems like a fairly simple thing to just go, check in with your heart and with your gut. But, throughout the process, and as we get it more attuned and more wired, it's almost like learning a language. The more I listen, the more I actually understand the language better. So I'm starting to understand the nuances and the inflections and not just the big picture. So I find that, in terms of the ability to really, really fine tune and deepen those, getting I call them fluencies or habits, to check in. It's not just, oh, then I get really good at checking in. It's actually I'm learning a whole new lexicon of my own experience.
And I know for me, I talk to clients about the somatic experience of wisdom, that, yes, there's the thoughts and there's the emotions that we're really aware of, but it's also the little nuances of feeling that I need to listen. I need to go in there, and actually it's really quiet. It's really small. But if I can get into to listening more to my body, and being in not just what am I feeling as an emotion, but what am I feeling that tells me that there's more message here to listen to. The gut instinct, when you get that twisting of your gut, well, that's really obvious. But many times the gut is much less obvious. I'm having trouble swallowing, or the words are stuck in my throat. well, what's going on here? There's something more here
Mm-hmm.
then it's not my head brain, it's okay. When I'm coming down into that body, when I feel my chest tighten or not,
Right.
what what am I not just thinking, but what am I experiencing that adds to the wisdom of this moment? That when I'm aware of, and that's the self-awareness of mBraining, is it brings you down below the neck, of all of the messages that I'm getting.
Yeah. I had a crazy moment when we were in Spain because I did the master coach and then did the trainers right after. So it was like 11 full on days.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I was overload for sure. But,
Yeah.
I just remember walking home, and Amy and I had a beautiful walk from along the beach from where we were staying to the hotel where the training was. And we processed so much. But I just remember thinking, we're all doing this. We all do it kind of slightly, sort of. And we've all
Mhm.
thought, oh man, I should have listened to my gut, or, oh, no wonder my heart was never really in it, or, whatever it was. But, and I thought, I think that that's why this training lands so beautifully is that we're already doing it. We're just not doing it really well. And one of the things that
Exactly.
mBraining does so beautifully is it just helps you do it on a
And
deep,
and how many times, like you say, do we say, I wish I'd listened to my gut. My gut told me there was something wrong. I
right,
should have listened.
right,
Well, and I think even more importantly than that, or to the same issue, but I mean, kind of like, getting ahead of your problems. I mean, you know if you walk into a room and you're feeling something that you're not thinking about,
Yeah.
everybody's going to react to that, not what you're saying. And so if
Exactly.
you are not connected, not aware of what your body is out there telling every other body, you're going to have conversations. And I know this in my relationship with my husband because it so much matters how I change how I feel than what I say. Sometimes we can have an argument about something, and we're saying the words and it doesn't make any difference. You can say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't, because I'm not, I'm angry and I'm frustrated and I'm saying sorry because I just want us to move on because I'm sick of this.
Yeah, what I really mean is just shut up or
Yeah,
something like that. But if that's
absolutely.
what I mean in my heart, right? That's the communication that happens and it doesn't solve anything. So if I'm really
But
trying,
it's the same as, let's say your boss or your coworker shows up to work and on the way to work, somebody cut them off. And so they're still in their body, either in that fear of the moment of what happened, or they're angry and frustrated about the bad drive they had to work or whatever. And they come into the office with this energy that's off. And everybody feels it. And the first words that are out of the mouth, even if they're good morning, you're like, well, what did I do? And it's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with, but because we read the body language and not just the words that are said, we take it personally when, you might go into a meeting and somebody's had an argument with their teenager over the phone 5 minutes before they walked into the meeting, and you can tell that they're angry, or you can tell that they don't believe the words they're saying to you. They'd rather not be in the meeting.
yeah.
And this comes back to, in order for us to be present, and that's one of the things that I love about mBraining. It brings all of us into our bodies and into the present moment and being completely present and available to the people and the situation that is right before us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel like one of the things, in addition to all of that, that I love about teaching mBraining is that it's really about, it's about personal growth. It's about complete metamorphosis of who we think we are, who we feel we are, and being able to really dive deep into ourselves and just go, wow, that's how I thought about that. I wonder where that thought came came from, and then, really just spending time to kind of go back, in age or in
Mhm.
experience or something, and really feel it, and set ourselves up for beautiful choices of how we
Mhm.
want to be and present. And that just changes how the whole world interacts with you. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I think about the mBIT training that, we train coaches, but it's also, I think, one of the most effective personal growth programs that I've ever taught.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Well, and and weirdly, it also kind of coming off that. What I mean, if you feel like I do, where the way to change the world is to change yourself. That
Yes.
we are the cellular version of what the rest of the world is,
Yeah.
and that really changing ourselves is a most important thing we can do in making this world a really better place for everyone. And I find
Absolutely.
that, it always comes back to me, whether we're working with people about, their kids or something that, and they use mBraining and they see that when they use mBraining, everything works. And then I say something like, well, what if we all taught our kids this? What if we all taught our kids to do this? And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, everybody can see, oh my gosh, what a different world would be
Absolutely. I
if we
mean,
could if we could just stop from unteaching our kids how to be in their bodies, right?
yes.
yeah.
Yes, if we could, and I know for me, I'm constantly saying to my daughter, yes, I want you to be smart and intelligent and all those things, but the most important thing I want is for you to be kind.
Mhm.
I want you to understand what it is to be compassionate and creative and courageous,
Mhm.
and bringing her, like you say, into her body constantly. Okay, yes, it's important that you learn things academically in your head. Yes, that's important, but I want you to bring it down into your heart, bring it down into your gut, and don't lose touch with that.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
um
Amy and I have written 2 children's books that have been,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
that, we speak to that exactly because we've seen the difference that it's made in our children, and so many of the people who are, mBIT trainers and are involved in mBraining. And so we've written our first 2 that should be out in a few weeks. So
Okay, so I think Amy said she had, yes, all right.
3 copies,
Yeah, okay.
proof copies.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so you've got Hello Brains and Strong. What was the other one? Strong,
Strong,
Wise, and Kind. Awesome. Yes.
This one is already a Kindle book on Amazon.
Okay.
But we'll give the revised editions, and then paperback and hardback will also be available on Amazon.
Okay. And those are kind of what ages? Is that like a 6 to 10 or what?
Well, the Strong, Wise, and Kind is a lullaby, kind of. I mean, I thought of it when I first thought of it. I was kind of like, I don't know if you know Goodnight Moon, but it's just,
Yes.
something that kind of has a rhythm and it kind of gets in. So it's something you could use with even very small children and babies.
Awesome.
Kind of something that'll always kind of just be in their heads or in their memories or in their bodies.
Okay.
And the second one is, I think of them as companion books because this one is actually a lot more detailed about what those different brains are doing and a little bit of balanced breathing and those kinds of things. So this is almost more the guidebook for the parents.
Okay,
But
right.
also-
Yes,
also
absolutely. Yep, yep.
for a
Yeah.
little older kids to kind of get a grip on, what it is they're trying to do. So part of it, so much of it when we work with kids is on a feeling level. If we do it and we
Yes.
practice it, they pick it up from us.
Yes.
They do it naturally because all little teeny beings trying to survive on the planet move toward wellness and abundance because that's what they need to do.
I find it so funny because Isabella, I was leading a client through meditation, and she wanted me to go cook something for her, and she was like, "I'll lead the meditation and you go cook." And I'm like, "Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
okay."
Probably does a great job.
But it is that whole thing of that's exactly what they learn. They're with us, and they're seeing us do this in our daily lives, and they're like, well, this is what we do. And teaching her to get down into the heart and the gut at a young age, and to trust her gut. When she was really, really young, and before going to school, she was having tummy aches. And I sat there and I was like, there's something going on in school that's just off. And rather than trying to address, oh, you're fine, there's, this is just your anxiety playing up. I went to, okay, there's something wrong at school. Let's go address what's wrong at school. And it turned out that one of the kids had a biting problem. And, it was stressing her out of, was she going to get bitten?
Oh, yeah, it's so
but it's that ability to catch ourselves rather than going, oh, this kid just doesn't want to go to school, and go, well, actually, maybe there's something I need to address here.
Yeah. Well, it's taking each one of those intuitions authentically, right?
Yeah.
And honoring each one of them and showing that. And, their mirror neurons are hard at work. That's how they're learning how to do everything.
Yeah.
And if we just, if they ask us a question and we stop to listen to our heart, or we just go, I'm not quite sure why, but my gut is saying no about that right now. And I'd like to just spend a little more time with that to figure out what it is. And if you are living that way around them, which these courses teach so beautifully, that it just naturally seeps in and becomes the way that they are.
And I will tell you that there's nothing cuter than to see, I have a little student, and she's working on learning, some new processes, and she was going to get a little prize, and she couldn't decide. She wanted them both. And it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. She goes like this. She goes, just a minute. And she goes, I want this one.
Yeah, but isn't that it? It's that, not just in your head, but really, what does your heart want and desire? What are you feeling? And also, what do you need? Coming down into that gut space of, who am I? What do I need? And sometimes that's not exactly what we think we should do, what we think we should have, but when we're honoring that, and actually listening, life just gets sweeter.
And I think about that, like for about 2 months after I first went through the mBIT course, I was like so mad at my head. I'm just like, you've just been like ruling me. Like I've just been like you've just been like.
But it's not your head's fault. I mean, it's not. That's how we're trained. That's school. That's university. That is cultural. There's so much of how we are. I mean, life, our lifestyles disconnect us even, and so, finding our way back. I know for me, it's taken me down a much more holistic path to life. Mm-hmm. Do not do of saying, am I living not just authentically in my head of what do I think and what are the stories I'm telling myself, but am I living authentically to who I am, to what my needs are, to what my heart wants, to what I value. And when we can come down into that and start living, a friend of mine that's much more spiritual than I do, she's like, each one of us has a column of light within. Are we standing in our column of light? When we're doing anything, are we in that place of center? And I found that useful even in mBraining, of going, okay, is this in that column as opposed to just in my head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So it's so interesting, when I think about, you asked what had changed in our days, and immediately after the first course, I bought a heart math tool,
right.
And I have like 4 years of data now.
Wow.
And it's just so amazing to like I started off in the easy, level 1, and I was getting 2s and 3s, and then I went to level 2 and 3, and now I'm like if I get under a 6, I just like feel like, wow, that wasn't good, But, I mean, you talk about, the power of habits and the power of, the little things that you do every day that slowly come together. And you think of the people who go, oh God, everything's going wrong, I better try that meditating thing, but they've never done it, right? And so there's nowhere to go into it. We haven't created it within ourselves. We have no idea that we can actually calm our own ANS with good habits and strategies.
Exactly.
But also, you have to do it for a little while. You have to get
It's
good.
a practice. It's a habit like anything else. And for me, that's one of the things of looking back over the last 4 years and seeing my personal journey and going, when things go wrong now, everyone's like, you're so calm. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is 4 years of practice to stay calm. This is not, I'm calm. This is, I've been practicing calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because obviously, wisdom is what we have when we're able to use all of our body and brain functions. And the moment we go into fight and flight, our circulation in certain parts of our body, we know, are cut off. Our hormones, different hormones, are pumped into our body and system that change the way we respond. And being able to practice calm allows us to say, no, I don't want to go into that. It's not that the situation doesn't warrant a response, and perhaps even a quick and hard response, but I want to use all of my faculties for this problem solving, not just, the fight and flight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being able, there's a lot of talk now about biohacking. And for me, mBraining allows us to do much more biohacking because we're so aware of what's happening in our bodies somatically. And whether or not you've got biofeedback, I mean, even heart math stuff is biofeedback on one level of your heart variability. But there's Muse 2, which does the theta waves and the alpha beta delta waves of the head. There's all kinds of stuff. And, something as simple as sleep. Are you getting deep sleep or are you restless sleep? All of that is going to influence how we show up in life.
And it's interesting because, I think that it's kind of an interesting place because as much as neuroscience, is this, I think it's a kind of a place where you kind of decide where you fall, whether you go kind of down the, I'm going to have some device make my brain waves, match or I can actually have agency of doing that for myself by taking these practices. And I'm not saying that one is, we should never not do something that's good for us. There's no.
Well, I like the biofeedback ones in the sense that they read what your brain is doing and you then have to go into the meditative state to move it. Okay.
Yeah,
Now I know there's other ones that do it for you. Okay. That's the, but for me, the ones that give you the feedback of what state I'm in are fascinating because then I can train myself of how do I get to the state I'd like to be in.
Yeah, I think biofeedback just helps us know where we're at and what we're going for. No question. But I just think it's interesting because we, just again and again comes back to, the human choice for.
Yes.
I guess one of the things that's kind of one of my own things that I believe in is that I think the more that we get connected and the more that we find ourself in our moments, that we sometimes we connect with that intense joy feeling of being present in the moment in our bodies. And I have this idea that it's like that's what being human is supposed to feel like.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly.
Not really joy when we do it all the time. It's just that's what natural being human feels like because this is our home. We were designed to be here and to survive here and do well here. We've been adapted to that. So, I think a lot about, a lot of the things we're trying to do to get back to that are really interesting. But I think the beautiful thing about mBIT or biofeedback is it's just the arrows pointing the direction.
Absolutely. You know, and I love the fact that, you know, mBraining starts off with, this is where neuroscience meets ancient wisdom. You know, there's been some of these practices that we talk about in mBraining that people have been doing for 5,000 years. We didn't have the neuroscience of understanding why it works. We just knew it worked. You know, and now neuroscience is progressing so quickly that it's saying, well, the reason it works is this is what's happening on the chemical, the neuro, you know, the neuroreceptors and all that level. But our understanding of why it works is now, but we know it works.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, if you have a really good concept of what you are actually doing to create the feelings that you want in your life, then it's easier to practice them, it's easier to want them. And in some ways, I think of it as living with, you know, because when times are good, it's hard to do the meditation and the journals and the gratitude and all that. And yet those are the most important times, because we know that inevitably in this life, something's going to happen.
It's ups and downs, absolutely.
And then, you know, if you keep these practices going and these habits and these ways of being, then it's like you're just being, you're being taken care of.
You're creating a new baseline, I think.
But you're being compassionate to future you. Like, you're not going to leave her hanging out there, right? Or him hanging out there, because you'll know that you have all these different things to come and help you meet those moments that are more challenging. And help others do the same, and absolutely. Just the way that you're being. And so it's just
I've just realized what the time is, and as always, you know, we're going over the half hour. So just finishing up, let's go back to the training happening in Missouri in September. Who's that for? What would, you know, I mean, obviously, we were talking, I was just talking with Amy about the certifications and ICF having, you know, the credits and all of that. So tell me just briefly about all of that, because I know you guys have been working on that.
Go ahead, Amy.
Well, please fill in if I missed something, but so in May, we were able to apply to offer CE credits for the course. And so now, you know, anybody who needs to get coaching, continuing education credits can get coaching education credits for their continuing education requirements by doing the program. So we're really excited to be able to offer that, because we know coaches have to do that anyway. And so
yes,
it makes
exactly. So
at the same time, you know, learning mBIT and also getting this. Super excited to offer that.
A huge added value. And so the coach training is in Missouri from the 22nd to the 25th. And you'll get 30 continuing education units. You'll be part of our program of learning how to be your authentic self and a new way of being, and get introduced to this beautiful community that we have on Facebook. And I feel like it's for anybody who wants to deepen anything in their lives, whether it's their personal growth, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a teacher, whether you are a coach. I mean, we've had all different professions go through, and then those people have taken it to an enormous amount of areas where we have.
Exactly. Because I mean, I know personally, I know, you know, company directors that are even in IT and that kind of thing, but being able to then work with their teams a different way, because they're coming from understanding what's happening with the person, and it makes it it changes the personal relationships, you know. It changes
anybody who wants to have a better relationship with anyone.
Yes, exactly.
Employees, bosses,
and themselves.
Yeah, you know, so it's, I mean, yes, it is for coaches, but it's not just for coaches. And that's what I find so beautiful about it, is that, you know, even if it, you know, as a teacher, this would be phenomenal. As a nurse or a doctor, this would be phenomenal, because it addresses how you're relating to others.
Or even if you're an artist or a musician or something, when you can really authentically access your talents and feel really good. It's that all in feeling. If there's any area in your life you'd like to feel a little more all in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I know I'm sharing a link of mBrainingUSA.com, which is where people can find certification. But where else can people find you?
They can find us.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Laura.
Oh, our website is abundanceenterprise.com.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that as well. Yes.
And we have a Facebook, which is Abundance Enterprise. And then
Okay.
also we have a LinkedIn, which we're just kind of
Getting started.
hard to get well, and it's yeah, finding time to do everything we want to do right now is probably our biggest challenge ever. So
Yeah.
you can
Yes, because you guys offer individual coaching as well, as well as the trainings, and it's putting all of that together. Yeah.
and
absolutely.
our dream is to create a program for families is one of our next
One of our goals, yeah, our
Yeah.
near goals.
yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing.